All right. Welcome, everybody, back to this episode of the Stone Disclosure. I am here right now with two incredible gentlemen. Guys, give a quick little rundown of who you are and what is it that you do.
I'll start. Hey everyone, I'm Matt. Nice to meet you. I'm an English teacher and an artist by day, teacher by day. and I'm a freelance artist and I teach English to young students online. And I've been doing both for over 5 years now. I've been doing art all my life, but teaching for five. And I enjoy it. It's quite nice. And I'm into fitness and good conversation, obviously. So I'm here to join the crowd. Will, take it away.
Yeah, I'm Will, and I'm a licensed mechanic. Been doing that for, licensed for a little over a year, and I entered the trade 9 years ago. So, time flies, and I'm just enjoying the ride.
All right. So, the amazing thing about the three gentlemen that you see on the screen right now, believe it or not, all three of us are single. So, we're just throwing that out there for y'all. But I don't know about you guys. Quick little rundown about myself for anybody who doesn't know. I was married for quite a long time. I was married for 4 years. I was in a 12-year relationship. And coming out of that, I took like just some time to just figure myself out before I even got back into like the dating pool at all. And I found that it is a whole different place from what I remember. And I know that the pandemic had a lot to do with it, only because like a lot of people shifted to online dating, which I'm kind of getting a hang of now. Whereas like before, I was like a fish out of water completely. But I've noticed, and speaking to a lot of men and speaking to a lot of women, there's a lot of different challenges now in modern dating than there was before. Do you guys kind of come across challenges that you guys want to share in any way, or? I'm very excited. So we'll start.
Jeez, it just
Couldn't wait to get that out.
well, the biggest thing that I think is we could use the word intruded on the process of dating. I mean, technology's absolutely wedged itself into this particular scene. And I mean, social media, for instance, a lot of people use it. They use it just for the sake of using it, something to do, but it's also impacted the way people formulate relationships, maintain relationships. And I'm saying this because the last few girlfriends I've dated, or I've had, the women I've dated, I've met through social media, and it wasn't my intention at all. It just seemed to kind of be the natural way of things. We share similar interests and get into conversation, and it just kind of takes off from there. I've got my opinions on the value of social media, meeting someone through that, but I'm sure people have married each other finding each other on social media. But this seems to be the direction it's going. I'm not a fan, but it just is what it is. So, what are you guys' thoughts on the current scene?
Yeah, well, I guess I kind of concur with Trey with how things have changed a lot post-pandemic. Like it's definitely, I think that's played a part, but that's just kind of like a piece of the puzzle. I think we were already trending in that direction with the rise of social media, of course, and different apps, TikTok, IG, etc. Yeah, and I think it's. I mean, I guess in a nutshell, without going too deep with my with this response, like I guess you could say that men in a way have become softer, and then women have gotten harder.
Hmm.
Simplistic way of putting it, but I think that kind of helps explain why things are kind of trending the way they're trending.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I think you're on point with that. I think that says.
That's something I've noticed, and Will, you hit the nail right on the head. I feel like the original dynamic of how relationships kind of functioned has changed, and there's a lot of different like reasons, in my opinion, why that is. What I've noticed now is a lot more women aren't really like too keen on getting in relationships. They're kind of more keen to getting access. Because when it comes time to actually like making that decision, like I'm going to commit to this person, I'm going to put my effort into this person, everything becomes very conditional. Not to say that there wasn't condition before, but the conditions, in my opinion, have now changed. If we're looking at the past, let's look at like our parents or our grandparents. There was just a set dynamic. You know, the male was like the caregiver, the provider, and he looked for a mate who could take care of the household, take care of the kids. That was just the general consensus of what everybody looked for then. Now we're in a situation where a lot of women have now become that provider role, sometimes by choice, sometimes not by choice. But now the things that they value are going to be different. So I think where men were kind of like, oh, well, we're in this place where like we know what we're supposed to do. Now it's like a lot of women are like, well, we're already doing that. I'm already working. I'm already taking care of myself. I'm already paying my bills. It may not be the smoothest transition. It may not be like perfect, but here you are coming in and all you're going to give me is more ways to pay my bills. Like, I don't need that. So I think their perspective now is a little bit different of what they need. And I think men's perspective by result has also changed because a lot of men are just kind of like, well, I don't know if I want to deal with this. You know what I mean? Deal with somebody who's really not all in or is not fitting the dynamic that I'm used to. And you're seeing less and less of like those type of women. So it becomes a little bit harder. So now your pool is a lot smaller than before. So I think it's making that transition that I don't think not only men have caught up with, but women haven't fully caught up with either because they don't really understand it. But those are just the ones I've seen. Matt, do you have anything to add or?
I'm thinking about what you've said. I've noticed particular patterns with the women I've dated. Everybody's independent these days. They're making their own way. It's interesting. I found that so the women that are independent, they can do it all themselves, but they want their cake and they want to eat it too. And I say this because they have they got the money, the resources, fine. They still expect you to at least match that or exceed it, so they hold on, they cling to the traditional values, the traditional way of life. They still want it. At the same time, they're participating in a different way. And that's what's really throwing a wedge in what I'd argue to be the natural order of things. Whether that comes off misogynistic, hyper conservative, I don't really care because we're seeing the ramifications of people trying to work with this in modern Western society. I don't see it working out very well. The relationships I see working are the ones where husband, wife, children, husband's working, wife might work. She doesn't necessarily have to. The old school nuclear family unit is the time-tested example that it works. At its best, it works very well. They're throwing a wedge in the spokes or a wrench in the spokes these days. And I see a lot of chaos. I don't see a lot of real connection or bonding developing. Everyone's just in it for the perks, the sex, it's weird. It's not complete. It's an incomplete kind of dynamic happening here. But what do you guys think?
I'd have to agree with that 100%. Just to add to that point, though, it's interesting. Women as they're becoming more independent and such. It's funny when you put them when they're now put it into like a leadership position. Like one thing I've noticed, like as pre-pandemic, I was kind of dating, kind of like on a whole 50-50 kind of vibe. And basically, what I noticed is that when women are put in like a kind of a leadership position, like any position where they got to make the final decision, let's say, or where they got to like show me something or explain something to me, they're genuinely like frustrated. Like they can't handle like the pressure of that. You know what I mean? It's like it's like unnatural for them in a way, right? Mm-hmm. I've seen this even within my own family. Like for those who don't know, I have an older sister. I mean, my mom for a long time was a single mother. So yeah, that's something I picked up on over the years. Mm. It's like they have all this power. They're they're all that strong and independent, however you want to call it. And it's like when they're put in the position, it's like they're they're genuinely miserable, and it's sad because it's like they can't be honest with themselves and say, hey, this. It's like no, they have to put on that brave face and continue with it. It's like no, it's okay to say, hey, like this isn't. I'm miserable. I feel miserable having to put myself in this position, or etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. One thing that I don't know about you guys, I'm sure you guys do the same thing. And I say this to everybody. So anybody that I talk to, anybody that I start like showing any interest in, anybody that I'm looking to date, I let them know right off the bat, like I am dating very intentionally now, and I'm not looking for any like half-ass shit. Like just it is what it is. So I started like kind of like coming up with like certain strategies that work for me. And one thing that I always say is my goal is to get to know as much about you as fast as possible. Because though the relationship may be taking its time to develop and making that decision that we're going to be together, I need as much information as possible. So it's going to be small talk. We're not going to be pen pals. We're not going to do any of that shit. Like if you're not willing to open up and you're not willing to communicate, because I'm going to do that with you. If you're not willing to do that, then just don't waste my time. Like go on to somebody else that's going to do that. So what strategies do you guys kind of like have or look to implement? And how do you determine value in a partner to where you get to that point where you'll make that decision that this is the person I want to actually like attempt to build a life with?
What you said just now really inspired me. I just thought of a great way to vet a potential partner. This sounds extreme, but I mean, you could ask them right off the bat, what is it that destroyed your last relationship on your? And here's the thing too, it's like a double-edged sword, because if they can't answer it, red flag right there. They're not willing to convey it to you. If they do answer it, you'll have a better understanding of who that person is. I know it's terrible. Like the last thing you want to do is unveil all your shortcomings, all your failures, your failings, things you got to work on. But that's going to save you years of headache because you'll find out right away. If you can read, even body language is critical. Every man and woman should read a book on body language just to find out if this person is lying to you or they're feigning their information. All these little things help because I mean, if you're looking for a potential wife, then you're going to want to know things. You're going to want to know who this person is, what they're all about, what their intentions are. That is intention is critical, and that's something to definitely be aware of. What is this person? What do they intend on experiencing with you in a relationship? It takes me back to the last two girlfriends. It's like day and night with their intentions. But they followed similar patterns during the courtship process, and that can really throw a guy off if he's not privy to it. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, like you said, just to follow on your point, vetting, you kind of have to, like kind of like, I don't know if you guys have heard this saying, but they say like, a man's interested in a woman's past, and women's interested in a man's future, right? So, yeah. So,
good.
Like I said, yeah. What were your past relationships like? Like you said, and then also, how obviously the length of the relationships, have any children. It's just like a little, not even like a long list of things, especially for men. Like, we're very simple, so we just want to know, okay, how was this? Okay, and we just kind of evaluate pretty quickly from there. Like I kind of like what Trey said about not wasting any time. That's kind of where I'm at now too. Like I'm not gonna drag some shit out. Like I used to drag. Oh my god, I used to drag shit out for like months with a girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and looking back, it's like, man, I could have like spotted the red flags like within a couple minutes. What was I doing following up with her for months? You know what I mean? So yeah, and that's and like you said, like Matt said too, body language, that's big. You could definitely tell. The way sometimes not even just the way they're looking at you or whatever, even the way like they're, are they kind of like, let's say you guys are together, standing together. Is she leaning on you? Is she not? You go for a kiss. Is she pulling away. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many little things.
It'll be up for that shit nowadays, man.
I'm on it now. I'm on it.
Oh man, no. To Matt's, it's funny because like what Matt was saying is something I do a lot, and one strategy that I started taking, I'm just honest. I really don't care. If I'm being honest, I don't give a shit. I always tell women, I'm like, I'm an open book. You can ask me anything. I'll give you an answer. Whether you like the answer or not is going to be based on you. And it's better you know that information so that you can make whatever decision you want. And down the line, you can't say, oh, I lied to you or anything like that. Like, ask me anything, you'll get an answer. And if you ask me 2 months from now, it'll be the same answer because it's going to be the truth. So when I lead with that, that's the first thing. I'm already saying I'm willing to be extremely open. I'm going to hope you're going to be open with me as well. And then I play the question game where I'll ask a question, you'll ask a question. And that's just what we do. But it's not going to be like, I started off with weird, like, stupid shit. You know what I mean? Like, would you rather fly or swim? Just to like, kind of like warm them up to the idea. And it's surprising how fast they get involved in asking all the tough shit.
Right. I'm never surprised.
Question 4, they're like, so why did your last relationship end?
Yeah, it's like, what's your favorite color?
You have 4. You can ask things. One thing I always make sure that I ask is and you guys are free to use this if it works for you, like let me know. But I always ask, in your last 2 relationships, what do you think you could have done better?
Right.
And surprisingly enough, I've only come across, I think, one woman who couldn't answer that question. Only one. And she was out to lunch, in my opinion. But most of them know. Most of them know, well, you know what? I could have done this. I could have tried a little bit harder. There was a point where I pulled back and I shouldn't have. There was a point where, like, he needed support and I wasn't there for him. So, like, it gives them the opportunity to now reflect on themselves. And now I know, okay, well, moving forward, this is something that I should be looking out for, or maybe this is something that happens with them and maybe they didn't have the proper support system and that's why it went that way. So it kind of gives you this nice little roadmap to not only do you establish this open relationship with each other where you're not really like apprehensive to ask things, but to me it brokers like a proper structure of what communication should look like. Now, I don't know about you guys. I truly believe that communication is the second most important thing in a relationship. I think respect is top notch. If you respect a person, you will communicate. If you respect a person, you will look out for them. It just is what it is. We all respect each other, and us brothers, we know this. If I have respect for you, you need a couch moved, I got you. You know, you need a tire changed, I got you. Because we have that rapport with each other and that respect with each other. We all know that we've worked for a boss who's probably an asshole, but you respect the fact that he worked hard to get where he did. So you'll do what you got to do. But I also like to express, and this goes both ways, it's not just for men, this is not just for women, is the importance of actual proper communication. Because I find that a lot of people think communication is just like, I say something and you listen to what I have to say. But communication it's a trifecta, it's a triangle. There's 3 sides to this. Because I could tell you stuff all day, but if you never actually take in, comprehend, and process what I'm saying, me talking to you makes no difference. Because you're going to continue with whatever ideal you want. You're not really taking in anything that I'm telling you. And I think that is where, for me, it's very important. If I'm communicating with a person and they immediately cut me off, or they immediately have like some like extremely quick answer as soon as I'm done talking, I know you're not listening to me at all. You're just speaking to respond. What other, how do you guys determine value? That's, I think, the biggest thing. How do you determine value for not only what you can bring to a person, but what that person needs to bring to you? And we'll start with Will.
That's a great question. I would say, well, I think I'll start off by saying that I think the value that men bring and the value that women bring to a relationship, it's different, but it can come, but I guess if delivered in equal, like I guess on an even time frame, both sides, it can, it's almost like the same, like, well, for lack of a better term, it's almost like 50-50 if you like, for example, well, the number one thing for me, like, the woman I'm going to be with, she has to be working. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of guys, especially online, who say, I gotta, they want to be the breadwinner and all this other stuff, but it's like, and ideally, I also want to be the breadwinner, but it's like, she has to be working. That's important. You know what I mean? Is that, and also, she has to have, well, I'd say that she has to have like-minded friends. You know what I mean? Because one thing I've noticed is that, like, a lot of women, they might be in a successful relationship, might have been with their man X number of years, but then you look at their friends, and it's like more than half their friends are single, partying like every freaking weekend. You know what I mean? So it's like, surrounding yourself with the right people, with like-minded people who will will lead you in the direction of success. And like you said, it's not a one-way communication thing where it's like, hey, these are my rules, this is what you do. It's like, no, like, it's open communication both ways, I'm gonna so one piece of value that a woman would bring to me is if she is willing to give me feedback, also willing to add, if I ask a question, hey, what do you think about this decision I made? I'm gonna, like, as long as she's okay with me, like, let's say my turn to make the final decision, she says okay, and I say, okay, what do you think about this? Like, I expect her to give me some open, honest feedback on that. So, yeah, coming from her perspective, and is this value both ways or just value from women?
Both.
Oh, okay.
What value do you think you can bring to a woman that you are currently pursuing?
Right. So, and then from my perspective, the value I bring is I want to establish it from the beginning that, look, I want to be the leader in this relationship. I want to make it as traditional as possible. Obviously, we're in modern times, so you can't really say it's going to be a traditional relationship. But I want to be able to trust that my future girlfriend, wife, is going to allow me to make the final decision. I'll consult with her anytime. Well, every time I'm ready to make that decision. Obviously, I'm a mechanic by trade, so cars gonna get taken care of. Things around the house get taken care of. Any like labor, physical labor, that's taken care of. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
All right, Matt.
Great points, Will. Yeah, definitely the friends factor. That's a huge one. That's a great indicator too, to see how much value she has as an individual. And like you mentioned, communication. That's pivotal. That's huge. That's everything. If you can't communicate with this person, then you're already at a loss. It's already doomed to fail. For me personally, the value a woman can bring is demonstrating her capacity to be a phenomenal helpmate. And that comes from her believing in you and your cause, no matter what that is. For Will, if she believes in you as a mechanic, she truly does believe in you in that direction. She's one you got to keep your eye out for. For me, I'd want a woman who believes in my capacity to create art, because that's something that means so much to me. And it's interesting because certain women I've been talking to at the moment are deeply into that, and I can see, like, these are potential women, or at least these women set a standard for me that I haven't experienced in the past, and I'd like her to at least have that to bring to the table, because it means so much, just that support, whether she vocalizes it or just, you can tell when someone really believes in you. That spiritual support is so useful. I find it's huge. It's so huge. The subtle things, just when she appreciates you, appreciation for what you do. And the other thing I was going to say was, being a good helpmate. And traditional values, that's kind of I wouldn't mind a woman who wants to work. That's a beautiful thing. Beautiful. She found a way to create purpose in her own life, meaning in her own life, and it all adds to your dual capacity to enhance your lifestyle. That's great. That's wonderful. So long as it doesn't take away from you as a couple. You don't want the divide. Any kind of divisive factor is just it's needless. I suppose what I can bring as a man is providing that security, that safety. Here's the thing, though. This is the one thing, aside from these traditional values, which women obviously across the board, I think, appreciate. The women I've been speaking to lately all seem to really like being, the term they use consistently is seen. Be seen. What does that mean? It means a lot. It's a loaded term. I'll unpack it quickly. So being seen means you're appreciating them by paying attention, and it's through your communication, learning about them, remembering details about them, and sharing a genuine interest in who they are. That goes a long way with the woman. It'll come right back to you. She'll appreciate you for appreciating her. So it's a little thing, but it's a huge thing, and it can really help solidify a connection with someone you're interested in. So those are my thoughts on value.
Yeah, Matt, I like that last part. I just had a conversation about this.
Nice.
A woman was talking about that, and she said that I asked her about her past relationship and where it went wrong for her, like what she was lacking. And she's like, the one thing I wanted to do was be heard and be seen. And the way you described it is exactly how she described it. So I think that's amazing. For me, I tell everybody, I'm like, I'm not looking for a girlfriend. I'm not looking for a situationship. I'm not looking for any of that. I'm not looking for a wife. I don't want a wife. I'll marry you, but I'm not actually looking for a wife. The title means nothing to me. I am looking for a life partner.
Nice.
What I mean by that is I'm going to navigate the rest of my life regardless. But I would love somebody to navigate it with me. And that means going through the ups, going through the downs, going through celebrating in the victories. And what I determine valuable in that is, I like how Will said, like, he likes a woman who works. For me, I'm the exact same way. I don't even need you to make a lot of money. You could work a part-time job for all I care. It's just the fact that you're in the same space that I'm in. Because if your expectation of me, and I will bring that value to you where you won't have to worry about anything financially. Like, I will make sure that household is supported. But by you working as well, once we get on, you don't have to anymore. That's fine. Kids come around, you don't have to. It's fine. No problem. I handle that. But at least you'll have an understanding of what I would be going through. You'd have an understanding of, well, I just finished work and I just came home. Now I got to worry about making a meal. Now I got to worry about, like, I'm stressed out. My back hurts. My leg hurts. Like, you'll understand that, okay, well, he's going out there and those are the sacrifices he's making because I've been there and I recognize that myself because I had to do it. And now I don't have to do it. And he's taken on the mantle of this. So that gives, in my opinion, a better appreciation of everything. So first and foremost, that's why I like that aspect. Secondly, it's like Matt said, if you have a woman who supports your dream and your goal and the shit that you want to do, you'll fucking move a mountain for that person. Because I don't think a lot of women understand. Men go through a lot of shit. We just don't talk about it because we never really had the safe space to talk about it. And I think a lot more women now are understanding it. If I'm out there and I'm chasing something, I'm not chasing this for myself. I'm chasing this for me. I'm chasing this for our family. I'm chasing this for you. Because at the end of the day, the life I'm creating for us. So if I'm out there doing that, as long as I know I have you in my corner, I know that on those days where I come home and I'm like freaking pissed off or I'm sad or I'm down or I'm just worn out, I have somebody who's going to come and say, hey, listen, what do you need? What do you need me to do? Do you need me to run a bath for you? Here, I made this for you. Here, I poured a glass of wine for you. Just them thinking about you and your struggles and your challenges that you're going through is like massive for me. And I think the third one that really determines value for me kind of coincides with the last one is the ability to understand teamwork. And I think a lot of people don't really take that in the same way. I came from sports. Will knows, played basketball, played soccer, played a bunch of shit that required teamwork. I know in basketball I am not the best player. I knew that I would never make that starting lineup. I knew that I was the sixth man coming off the bench, and there were 5 other guys better than me. But I knew I could play defense. So I know that every time I go on that court, I am guarding the best player on the court because that is my role. And I will give you 110% in my role. My partner is not going to have the same skill set as me. I'm hoping that my partner, the things I suck at are going to be the things that they're good at. So when it's time for me to like make a decision or make a move or something like that, like having your consultation is great, because if I'm not skilled or I'm not really polished in that aspect, I can lean on you for it. If your thing is organization and you see that I'm not very organized, hey, I'm going to handle the organization aspect for you. Okay, cool, perfect. I'll handle this. And it's just knowing what your role is and going for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what a lot of people do is like, they don't realize that me being around you and watching you do these things, me being around you and seeing how you organize yourself is going to make me more organized. I will get better at it over time. And having that ability to communicate and say, hey, listen, how do you do this? How do you do that is huge, because we're both on a journey of improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And we're improving individually as people, but we're also improving together. And whenever you hear those, like, I talk to a lot of like couples, especially like couples that like have gone through divorces. You always hear the same thing, like, we grew apart. And it's true, like it actually happens, because each person gets focused on their own growth and doing it on their own and doing it by themselves, as opposed to like, okay, well, I don't necessarily need your help, but I would like you to help me. Only because I know that now you're going to grow through it. So you almost create like this interweave. So it's like you could be 2 trees going like this, or you could be trees going like this. And every now and then you'll just intersect with each other. And that's enough for you to appreciate the journey together. And I think that's the hard thing with a lot of relationships, because I don't think we determine value properly. Now, for myself, the value I'm going to bring to a person is I am relentlessly going to chase down whatever goal it is that we've determined that we're going to do. Whatever you need, wherever you're lacking, wherever maybe temporarily it's not working well for you, I got you. If you need help on anything, I got you. If I got to go learn something new, I'm going to go do it. Because at the end of the day, I'm thinking that we're climbing this mountain together. So it's my responsibility for times where you're tired to hoist your ass up on my back and bring you up. And then when you're able to go, when I get tired, we can do the same thing. So I'm going to bring that to, I'm actually very good at listening. This is one thing that I will say, and I'm not just tooting my own horn. I've been told by a lot of people. I genuinely give a shit. And I think a lot of men do. I think women don't understand that. We genuinely give a shit about what you say. We do. We care. When you're telling us you had a rough day at work, sometimes we don't want to hear that shit. We don't give a shit. I had a rough day. I just want to sit home and fucking watch basketball. But it's important to you. So I will actually listen. So that's one thing that I know I bring value-wise. I think also the one thing that we have to understand with determining value is we have to self-assess ourselves. And I don't think a lot of people do that in general. I think a lot of people think I'm good how I am, and you should just accept me for that.
Yeah, that's total bullshit.
That's the thing that I find.
Oh man, I hate that stuff.
That's such a cover for like immediate red flags.
This is who I am. I never change it. I'm like, you're in a world that constantly changes. How are you never going to change? You're going to be like that old ass tank that like can't move anymore because it's made on wooden wheels. You have to advance as a person.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
All right. So with all these challenges and changes that we are seeing in the dating environment now, I'm going to kick the hornet's nest a little bit. Who do you guys think is at fault for this? Will laugh, so Will's gonna go first.
All right. Fair enough. I think there's fault on both sides. I'm inclined to say it's more the fault of women. The reason, I guess the reason I'm inclined to say it's more the fault of women is because at the end of the day, they are they're the gatekeepers of sex. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like they, you look at the partners they choose, you look at how they vet or the lack of vetting skills, and it's like you kind of see how it kind of plays out in society, how a lot of these kids are raised. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like I think there are a lot of capable men out there who would love to be fathers. Maybe they don't have the best game. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they don't dress as well. Maybe they're not wearing the most sophisticated dressers. And it's like that's not good enough for a lot of women. Let's just keep it 100.
Mhm.
So a lot of good guys, essentially a lot of good guys are getting passed up. For a guy, for Chads. It is what let's call it what it is. You know what I'm saying? Chads and Tyrones.
Chads and Tyrones.
Yeah, man. So So I think again, mainly because, like I said, the gatekeepers of sex. You know what I'm saying? So it's crazy how a lot of them say like, oh well, like you'll hear things online like, oh, yeah, he got me pregnant and things of that nature, or and we know women will be like, oh well, he put his dick in her and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, last I checked, I think it takes two to tango. Like, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, mainly because of that, and of course on men's side too, our responsibility is, we choose who we're gonna marry and who we're gonna be in a relationship with. We're gatekeepers of relationships. So
Exactly.
So yeah, I think there's some fault on us too, because it's like we tolerate so much. You know what I'm saying? None of you both can relate to that. So I think pretty much every man can. So it's like at a certain point, men, we gotta like you said, Trey, we gotta determine our value and the value we want in a partner. And if there's no metric, if there's nothing to measure that, and you're just kind of like randomly, just picking whoever's the next chick, then it's like, as a man, like, you're kind of losing your frame there. So yeah, that's my view on it.
Yeah, great points, Will. I was going to say that myself. Women gatekeep sex, men gatekeep relationships. If the woman is going after those superficial qualities in a man, the way he looks, the way he dresses, it's all surface, it's all bullshit, and she's not vetting accordingly, he's going to drop her ass because he's gatekeeping. He's looking at his own future, and she might just be a piece of meat for him. It's a horrible thing to say, but this is the reality. And then the woman gets dropped continually if she keeps going after the same guys. Her reputation's down the drain. The guy's not learning anything because he's going after these easy women, easy, quote unquote. Sorry, Trey, the original question, you were looking for. Sorry, the original topic.
In your opinion, who do you think is at fault shift?
It's definitely a two-way street. The thing though is, like, most young people most young guys are looking for sex, right? They want to connect with the woman. And I still go back to just the way that, like, society, the way we're enabling this bad behavior. We're enabling this lack of critical thinking, this lack of insight that a woman is almost expected to have in choosing a partner. It really comes down to the woman. She makes the final choice of who gets to enter her. And if she's not privy enough to the guy, she's going to make the wrong decision. And it's to make the wrong decision. It happens all the time. I see too many single mothers. I'm not impressed by that. That doesn't speak highly of what's happening in society. It's not wrong to make a child. Most women want to make a child. I think most people want to have a family and keep it. I don't think they want to lose their partner. These women don't want to be single mothers. That doesn't make sense to me. But I keep seeing there's a proliferation of that, and that to me indicates that there's something amiss happening with too much frequency. So both parties are to blame, of course, but at the end of the day, it's the woman who decides who's going to have sex with her. So that's a huge factor in. I know I don't like blaming one side or the other, but some things are kind of speak for themselves. I don't know. It's a tricky topic.
So for me, initially, and this is up until last night, initially I looked at it as, you have two different parties here, right? And the women have made a shift now, like the men have to make that shift, and we have to come together in the middle and kind of like figure this shit out. And then I saw a video, and I wish I had it. I wish I had it to like pull it up on here, but I can't. And it was a man, and he said that if we look at things historically, men are really to blame. And I looked at it at first, and I was just like, nah, this is bullshit. I'm not going to watch this. But I said, you know what? Fuck it. Let me just see what he has to say. And he said, if you look at the breakdown of society, men have always been the leaders in society. We're the leaders in infrastructure. We're the leaders in everything. This is just how society has been based. So if there is a societal shift in any way, shape, or form, the leaders are the ones who are to blame. So if we're putting ourselves in a place where we're like, oh, we're supposed to be the leaders of the tribe, and the tribe starts to fall apart, it's the leader of the tribe who's at fault for everything. Now we can sit here and we can, and this is all from him, he was like, we can sit here and we can blame women and say, oh, women have become more difficult, they don't listen to men anymore, women don't do this, women don't do that. And then he said, pay attention to like what women are actually doing. He's like, I'm not saying that what they're looking for is wrong, but women tend to have respect for men who are higher up on the social ladder. It is what it is. You could be John. You could be married to Wendy for freaking 25, 30 years. Well, 25, 30 years is a little long. But you're married to your wife for 10 years. And her boss is some billionaire. She's going to listen to her boss. She knows she's not going to get fired. She knows that not listening to him is like not going to put her in any like hardship. But if he says, hey, listen, I need you to work an extra 2 hours, she's going to work that extra 2 hours. Not because she has to, but because she respects him to. And he's like, if you don't believe me on that, he's like, look at women in situations where they don't respect the person. Look at a woman in a situation where she's doing a return at Walmart. And I looked at it, and it's true. If she goes to do that return and that woman says, no, I'm not taking this, or that man says, no, I'm not taking this, she goes off. She doesn't give a fuck. She wants to talk to your manager. She'll do whatever the fuck she has to do to get it done. So he's saying that if women are not being, I don't want to use the word submissive, but they're not following the leadership of their partner, it's because they don't have the same respect for the partner, because now they respect somebody who's above the partner. And a lot of the times, the only difference is that like financial aspect. And not to say that women are looking for money, but it's what money represents. Money represents more stability.
Yeah.
Like I'm with John and we're paying our bills, and that's great. But Stan is paying his bills on a bigger house, and he's got a boat. So women will always compare. People in general, we compare. We're going to compare, our partner with the girl who goes to the gym. Not to say that we're going to go after the girl who goes to the gym, but you will automatically make those comparisons because that's how you learn. So in general, what he was saying is, as men, we have gotten to the point where we were just stagnant, and it worked. Because at that point in time, if you could remember when you were dating in high school, if you had a fucking job, you were the shit. Like, in all honesty, you were the shit. If you could dunk a basketball, you were the shit. If you could dance, you were the shit. But now we're in a situation where that value has not changed for women, because women are also doing the same thing. And men have not made that shift yet. We're not making that transition fast enough to where women are like, well, I don't really need the financial stability as much. It would be nice, but I don't need it as much. what else do you bring to the table as a man? Because now I don't need you to pay for this house because I can do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us are just stuck in that mentality of like, well, fuck, what do? I don't know what else I can bring to the table. And for that that emotional attachment, but we don't know how to fucking do that. A lot of men.
That's a great point. This, just to piggyback off that point, what we were discussing earlier is the way to go. That's what they're looking for. From in my experience talking to certain women, they have all the trimmings of reality, all the materialistic shit, which at the end of the day is utterly meaningless. Okay, it's comfortable, it's cozy. Doesn't mean shit if your heart is alone, and the women want you to connect with their hearts, and that's something that most guys completely overlook. They're craving that romantic aspect, and not necessarily in a superficial manner. Genuine connection, speaking to them through that it's kind of like a love language. It's a subtle, nuanced type of language, and it has to do with you really paying attention to who they are. I think women are naturally good at paying attention to who we are. They're nurturers by nature, and it's a lovely thing. It's a very empowering thing for men when a woman really, it's a respect thing too. If she pays attention, she's respecting you. But we need to learn how to reciprocate that in the ways that they need, and it forces you to kind of be a gentler person. You got to be softer, but not in a way that demasculates you. It's a way that you are just you're more in tune with her. That's the way to go. I think I'm going to argue that. I'm going to stand behind that.
Well, you looked like you had something to say.
No, I'm just listening. I concur with both of you guys, man. I mean, women they're naturally hypergamous anyway. They're gonna, any chance they have to kind of marry up or go up in terms of class in a relationship, they'll take it. You know what I mean? So it's upon us to that's that just kind of gives us a signal. Okay, I gotta step my game up.
Yeah.
It's just competition. It's just competition at the end of the day. So
yeah. It's funny.
He's always there. Yeah. Sorry.
Thought just came to my head when Matt was speaking, and I find it interesting because if we look at especially how everything's portrayed in the media where men are saying I want a woman to be more feminine, I want her to be more feminine. I understand that aspect. Yes, as a masculine person, you want a person who's a bit more feminine. But we're in times now where women are kind of sometimes forced based on situation to be masculine. Now, I always say sometimes things aren't your fault, but they're your responsibility as to what you're going to do after. You know what I mean? Like if you were a woman and you were taken advantage of and now you're having a child, it's not your fault that happened, but it's now your responsibility to not only deal with the repercussions of it, but heal from it. It's the same with a car accident. You get rear-ended, you're not at fault for it, but you got to call insurance. You got to bring the car in to get fixed. So you always have the things to do after. So I think what has happened, and I don't know if I'm going to put fault on anybody for this. It just is what it is. A lot of women kind of went through that phase where they picked the wrong partner. And it right? We pick the wrong partner all the time because we don't know ourselves, especially at a young age. So we can't expect them to. And sometimes you now get into a situation where you have to be a bit more masculine. You have to go out into the world. You have to be the provider. You have to work your ass off to take care of your home. So we know for us that when we're in that role and we come home, what's the one thing that we want? We want peace. We want to be cared for.
Yeah, that's just what I was gonna say.
You want your partner to be like, hey, how was your day? Oh, my back hurts. You want your partner to come give you a massage, rub your back, do that shit. So it's I just find it weird that if we have been in that space and we know what we would want after having to be in that mode all fucking day, how we can't make that shift to understand, well, now women are in that field. So maybe that's something they need at the end of the day. And once you understand that, I feel like you have this nice like idea of like equivalent exchange at that point, where it's like, yeah, I know you had a rough day, I had a rough day. I'll do the dishes, you make dinner. Oh, okay, well, I'll do this, you do that. Take something off my plate, I'm gonna take something off your plate. And that's why I said I want that partnership and that teamwork dynamic, because once you have that, after a while, you don't even have to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You both come home and be like, neither of us want to cook. Fuck it, skip the dishes. Like you get that like dynamic. I personally feel, and I did a lot of research on this shit for the last like year and a half. I don't sleep anymore, but they did a study between couples for the last I think 70 years, and a lot of us grew up watching like our parents. If you had the opportunity to see your parents' dynamic as you were getting older, you'll see like a mother who just seems like miserable and a father who seems miserable, but they've been together for 45, 50 years and they have these of happiness.
Yeah.
And you look at that and say, well, oh, that's not going to be me. I don't want that. But I don't think people actually understand that that father is in his masculine state all the time, and that mother is in her feminine state all the time. And if our whole body and all the teachings of life, if you look into Buddhism, like the yin and yang, you look at the positive and negative energy in science, everything is about balance. Every now and then a guy has to kind of touch that feminine aspect of him, and a woman has to touch that masculine aspect of him. Notice when a man has a daughter, he's a completely different fucking human being to his daughter than he is for the rest of the world. And when a mother has a son, she's a different human being for her son than the rest of the world. So it's kind of infusing that balance together. And I don't think we understand it, because now we're in uncharted waters where like our parents weren't. I know some parents where they're like shocked that women work, which completely blew my mind. It was this couple from Poland, and I was friends with their daughter. And he's like, I don't understand why she's working. Women shouldn't work. This doesn't make any sense. And they're stuck in that mindset. So how is he going to teach her about how this should work? How are they going to portray that to their son, how this should work? So we're really just in this huge place where nobody knows what the fuck to do. And the only way we're going to get past this is communicating, but we don't even know how to do that effectively.
For sure.
It's like
it's all uncharted territory, man. Like it was this, a lot of us are just, this is still new to us, Like now you add that, and you add in social media. It's like, okay, now how do I navigate this with social media? It's like we're just learning how to do it, like literally.
Yeah, and then we do stupid things like talk to the same gender, primarily just the same gender. Women for advice on men, and men will go to men on advice for women. But I'm like, do you understand the person? Like, I think the best person to talk to is the person. If you're an electrician, why would you go to a plumber to get electrical work done? You know what I mean? I don't know. Those are the things that keep me up.
I hear you on that. That's actually that's a good analogy. But I have, the one I kind of go to is like, this is just some slight pushback. The analogy I like is, if I'm a fisherman, or if let's say I'm training to be a fisherman, I'm going to watch like a sport fisherman, or like somebody who's like excelled at that. I'm gonna watch the best fisherman. I'm not gonna, well, maybe not the greatest analogy, but I'm not gonna go to the fish for the advice. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm trying to say? Because I'm trying to catch the fish. So it's like, it's different.
I like that.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, for sure.
I like that. I have a counterpoint for you, though.
Okay.
How do you think that fisherman got good at catching that fish? He watched what the fish did, and then he figured out how to catch it.
Yes. You got me. All right. I'll concede that.
That was a good analogy, though. I was like, oh, shit. Yeah. I like that.
It was okay. I got it from Patrice O'Neal, so it's all good.
Patrice O'Neal. You can't really go wrong with him. Last thing I want to really touch on is, I'm in trouble for this one. This notion of toxic masculinity versus toxic femininity. Just give me your points on this, guys. Do you think it
Go.
exists? How is it detrimental? Just speak freely.
These are interesting terms, because the problem is there is a fine line between being masculine and then it becoming toxic, and on the flip side with women for the feminine component. I guess we'd have to define what toxic masculinity is in a nutshell. I think it's like an unrestricted ego, and it's very belligerent, abrasive. It's like masculinity in a hyper it's tricky to think about. Like I see it in my head, I see what it implies, and I see the behavior it implies, but it is kind of nuanced at the same time. I think back to like high school. You see a lot of that kind of behavior in high school. As an adult, how would you? I'm gonna have to ask. How would you define? Give me like an example of it as an adult. What behaviors would an adult male express as being toxic? Like just, I guess, disrespectful to women in a way that isn't.
They just throw the word much around and just being very
around, arrogant.
Yeah.
Catcalling. Like these are just. It's almost borders on immature.
Mm-hmm.
I think disrespectful is a good way to sum it up. And it is toxic. Of course, there is toxic masculinity. Toxic femininity is I guess a woman that's like hyper entitled, expects everything, delivers nothing. I'll pass the torch on. This is an interesting topic here.
Yeah, the problem with these terms is that they're just kind of thrown around.
Yeah.
They're not really well defined. Like what about masculinity is toxic? That's the first question I have about it. You know what I'm saying? Like no one's really been able to pinpoint, unless like the first thought that comes to mind for me is something extreme, like like over the top, like like you're somebody who abuses, if you're a man who abuses women or something like that, like obviously that's toxic. You know what I'm saying? Or if I don't know, like something that I guess makes the woman not feel seen, like you guys mentioned there. Something that kind of minimizes, I guess, the role of woman in a relationship. I guess that would be toxic. I would characterize it that way. But yeah, there's no real way to define it. Just anything that's not like, it seems like on social media, anything that's like not like pandering to women 100% is like almost toxic, or like body positivity or something like that. So
yeah.
And and the toxic femininity thing. I mean, I don't really hear that term that much, but when I do hear it, it's just kind of like what Matt said, just kind of like entitlement, and when you don't take accountability, you're just kind of, you know what I mean, blaming, as they usually do, just blame everything on men. So
I got to jump in quick with one thing that came to mind when Will was saying about the toxic masculinity factor. I think the way it gets misconstrued and how the terms being thrown around, because it's being used as a way to counter the strength of men. As soon as a man is able to compete, and women in general might have difficulty competing in such a way because it's more akin to just the man in his natural state, they're gonna just immediately try to attack it, downplay it by calling it toxic when it's just the man's natural state of being. It's a term used to try and like just a term used to try and defeat it, to just put it in a box, bring it down. But that's why most people and most women that are down to earth, grounded, traditional types of women, they look at it as a joke. It's a horrible way to try to denigrate that natural masculinity. I hate the term. I think it's rubbish because it's too often used out of context in what it actually should imply. But yes, I really think it's used as a way to counter any type of competition that a woman faces in the world today, trying to compete with men. The whole thing's kind of absurd in my opinion. But men are always trying to win. We're always trying to win whatever we're doing. There's always, and the competition can be highly beneficial in a team type setting for men. We're naturally able to work together very well if we're trying to achieve a similar goal. But yeah, just want to throw that.
Sure. All valid points. The only thing, And I try to look at this differently. I try not to dismiss it only because I think they tried to put terms on things that like they didn't have a name for. So like they came up with like toxic masculinity, toxic femininity, because they didn't have any definition for it. It was the same like if you look at anxiety, no one knew what anxiety was 50 years ago, but people were suffering from anxiety. You know what I mean? I think what it is I put it on a spectrum, and I want to make it, I'm trying to simplify it as best as possible, so we'll make hot and cold. The closer you go to the maximum heat that you can, the lowest level of cold will be cold to you. But the closest you are to the end of hot, it's not as intense. You know what I mean? It's the difference between like, if you've gone on vacation, you're here in the winter, you've gone on vacation, you're getting on that plane and it's -2 degrees. It's cold.
Yeah.
But you're gonna be like, yeah, it's not that bad. And then you go to Aruba for 7 days and then you come back and it's -2 degrees. It's gonna feel way fucking colder than because your body is now used to that heat. So I think everything's kind of taken this shift where like you see a lot of, and I would say there's a lot of men that are afraid to be feminine or like have a little bit of femininity to them. And that's why I said you usually see this when a man has a daughter. Like he'll move very different with his daughter. He'll be a lot more softer with his daughter as opposed to his son. His son is going to throw around like a fucking rag doll. But his daughter is going to sit there and have a fucking tea party. He won't tell anybody, but he'll have it. And men were allowed to be in that space before because everything was private. Like you didn't have social media. People's shit wasn't out there all the fucking time. I've seen videos now where a guy's like cuddled up with his girlfriend and she like records it and he starts like flipping out and shit. I don't give a fuck. If you're cuddly, you're cuddly. It is what it is. But I feel like in the fight for femininity, like for the original feminists, when they were fighting for the right to vote, the right to be seen and be considered people, they achieved that goal. And they decided, okay, well, what more can we get out of this? Now, there's nothing wrong with that. As men, we know, like, we're going to achieve something, and okay, well, what's next? How can we expand on this? How can we make this bigger? How can we take it to the next level? And they went to such an extreme that anything within that masculine spectrum is very intense to them. So to counter that, now men start moving more into their masculine form and more away from that feminine aspect. Now you have polar opposites on both ends. You're at extreme heat and extreme cold at the same fucking time. There's no middle ground anymore. And I don't know if I'm making sense, but like that's where I look at how this has gotten.
Yeah.
We don't even know what the fuck we're fighting for. A lot of people can't even describe. Like, I asked you guys, what do you consider toxic masculinity? Will's like, I didn't even know what the fuck toxic femininity was. Yeah. We don't even know what these things are. We just words and we're throwing them around. And in all honesty, I heard toxic masculinity come out before toxic femininity. So women called us toxically masculine. And men, by extension, are like, yo, fuck that shit. You guys are just way too feminine. Mm-hmm. And that's where I said, I think everybody kind of needs a balance. And I live, as cheesy as it freaking sounds, I live by the yin and yang. That's just the way I understand life. It's the easiest thing to understand. You have a whole half that's dark, a whole half that's light. And in that dark, there's a little bit of light. In that light, there's a little bit of dark. And we're trying to get away from that. We're trying to remove that circle in the middle that's used to kind of balance and center us. So now you just have people fighting for shit because they feel like they got to fight for shit. And no one really knows exactly what the fuck they're fighting for. Mm-hmm. I've asked women, what do you consider a toxically masculine male? And they described a regular guy. So then I ask, what is your dad like? That's the question. What is your dad like? And the same person that she would describe as a toxic male is her dad. Mm-hmm. Go home and she loves her dad. So if we're looking at life, and they do say like you do marry your parents in a way, because that's the only person that you really have influence from. If you're a young girl and your father's in the picture, the guy you're looking for is going to be like your dad. So if the guy is now toxically masculine, then your dad was toxically masculine. So how the fuck does that make any sense? And it's the same with guys. I know more men who would like a girl with a little bit of grit to her. Because you know your mom had a little bit of grit to her. You saw your mom sometimes whoop your ass. You saw your mom kind of like tell your dad what to do from time to time. And we look for that because we want a strong woman.
Mhm.
I think we don't understand what that means. Women don't understand what a strong man means, and men don't understand what a strong woman should look like. And because we don't, we start just kind of like filling these gaps. And society has started to kind of take advantage of that shit. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, yeah, true. With a
And-
40% divorce rate, what do you expect? There basically are no role models for half the children out there in
Yeah.
this current generation. It's everyone's trying to like figure it out off the cuff.
Mhm.
That alone is an issue. And it's the law could step in and fix that immediately.
Mhm.
Like, you're married, you're fucking married. There's no going back.
Yeah.
Easy way out shit. That's a problem. That's enabling these problems. And it makes me think that these problems are a way of just dealing with, it's like crowd control. As
Mhm.
long as people are all messed up and confused and, divided, the power structure remains in place, unchallenged. And makes me really think that it's kind of part of the way it's been set up.
Mhm.
Divorce rate is atrocious. It's horrific. And this goes beyond religion. This is like the nuclear family unit is being attacked in every conceivable way, and it's not resulting in properly functioning human beings, in my opinion. I mean, we're discussing something that should be so natural, like so second nature. I was discussing this. I think I might have been with Will or another friend of mine, but just how we shouldn't even have to be having these conversations. We should be focusing on like our goals with our partners that are like beyond all, like the relationship things should just be natural and like happen. It's important we need to have these conversations, but it's kind of ironic that we are at the same time,
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I think we're trying to force ourselves away from that natural nature of ourselves. It's almost like we're looking at it in a negative. If you took a random man and a random woman and you threw them in a forest, what would naturally happen? Naturally, they would be in front. He'd have a stick or some shit, and she'd be behind. And his goal is like, anything that attacks, I'll make sure we'll get to the end. We'll get to the boat. Like, I'll make sure of it. Just listen to me. If I tell you to run, run. I don't mind. I'll fight off the lion. I'll fight off the bear. I don't give a shit. So then the bear comes and he attacks the bear and he kills the bear, but he gets injured in the process. What's the first thing that's going to happen? She's going to find a way to heal whatever wound he has. He's not going to be there like, let me bandage up my leg. She'll be like, I got it. You just killed a fucking bear. I'm going to do this. I'm going to handle this because that's part of her nature. And again, I think it comes to that switch where women have kind of now had to be in the realm of what men had to do. So now a lot of the time you're going there and you're in the forest now and you got a stick and she got a stick and you're fighting over who the fuck has to kill the bear. And I'm just kind of like, you know what I mean? Now you both get injured and you're like, oh shit, well, let me just bandage up myself. Like you've now gone away from that natural nature.
Mm-hmm.
One person I was talking to, we actually had a really good conversation and we both came to the consensus that human beings are just human beings. The things that women can do, men can do. The things that men can do, women can do. Can a woman lift like freaking 200 pounds if she worked her ass off? Probably. There are female powerlifters. So it's not a matter of if you can or you can't. It's just for that man to be able to lift 200 pounds and that woman to lift 200 pounds is going to take less work for the man.
Right.
And if you look at fatherhood, and I use fatherhood because it's the one I can relate to. If you put a man in a situation where like, here is your child, you got to take care of your kid, he will learn all the shit he has to do to take care of his kid. It is what it is. But it's going to be harder for him because he now has to adapt to that nurturing aspect. You always see in like all the time, you'll get like that new dad who like has to take care of his daughter. He doesn't know how to do a hair tie, so he creates some fucking weird shit to do with the vacuum. Like it's just harder for us. And this is where that teamwork aspect comes in because yes, I can do it, but I have to now expend like 75% of my effort where you can do it with 25.
For sure.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, sorry, I was gonna jump in for a second. Yeah. I think that's the one thing. That's kind of what I popped in my mind as we were talking, is that the one thing that's missing in today's relationships that I think our parents were able to figure out, and obviously our grandparents, reciprocity. They were able to figure out how, okay, yeah, like you just said, you're in the forest, you friggin' you gotta fight off a bear or whatever, you get injured. It's like it's an unspoken thing. It's just like it just naturally comes. It's like innate in men and women. Like if a man does that, she's gonna come to your aid and take care of whatever, heal you up or however, whatever happened, right? So I think that's the biggest thing that's missing. Is like it's like men and women, they come into a relationship nowadays. It's like they both have like the exact same goal. It's like they have the same goal. It's like you're just going in the same direction. It's like, okay, what happens when adversity comes in? Then you're both, you know what I'm saying? It's like then if you're just kind of if there's no counter to no yin and yang, like you were saying, Trey, to what you're doing, then it's like, you're all you might succeed in the same way together, but then you'll also fail in the same way together. And it's like there's no balance there.
Yeah, so we're gonna get a final thought from everyone. Speak freely, and we're gonna start wrapping it up. I do think we need a part 2 for this, so we'll probably do it for sure.
I'm ready.
But we'll start with Will. What's your final thought on all of this?
Final thought. This is a good discourse. I know it's like a hot topic now on everywhere, on pretty much every on all over social media. So it's but definitely different voices need to be heard, and we definitely as men need to come to consensus and say, okay, this is the direction we're going to be headed, because at the end of the day, it's for the betterment of society, not just for us individually. So
absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely. Yeah, I have to agree. This was a great conversation. Definitely opens up these issues. Communicating these issues is imperative these days, and just having these discussions, people listening in, it's enlightening. It's useful. It's helpful. We need more of it. Definitely more, because these issues are growing. They're growing big, and it's getting bad. And we need to nip that before it gets out of hand. And we can. It's exactly like this. This discourse is a great way of addressing what we all are afflicted by. So I appreciate you, Trey, for hosting this. This was great.
Thank you, guys. My final thought. I think that men and women need to stop listening to outside sources. I think you and your partner will be starting a relationship that is unique, because no relationships are the same. And if we're trying to play by somebody else's rule book, that's when this shit gets dicey. You know who the person you chose. You know the person that you got into a relationship with. Going through the vetting process, you got to the point where you were like, you know what, I'm comfortable with this person. I know what they're good at. I know what they're not good at. I know where I'm going to have to step in. I know where I can take a step back. And if that's what you've determined already to get to the point of being in a relationship, because I truly believe being in a relationship should be your practice for marriage. Like, that should be your goal at all points in time. So be intentional with that shit.
Nice.
Right now, yes, I've known this person for like 2 weeks, but what values seen in them that will work in a marriage with this person? And as soon as we start doing that, and we really keep it with our partner and drown out all the noise, we create something that's unique for us. And by it being unique to us, it's kind of custom fitted to who we are as people. Custom fitted to what you want and what I want, and our compromises in the middle and all of that shit. So we need to start listening to our partner more than we listen to every fucking body else.
Yeah, well said, for sure.
I think once everybody's doing that, we'll get there. I think it's possible. Want to thank you guys for coming out. I know you guys could have been doing some shit.
This was great. This was a good break.
Okay, man, yeah, it's all good. Anytime, man.
Yeah, I feel like it's a conversation that needed to be had, and we've
Yeah.
kind of had them randomly like throughout the year so far. But we definitely should do a part 2 on this. And that is the Man Cave here at the Stone Disclosure. Want to give a quick shout out to Matt. Matt is the arts guy. So you guys need any art done, talk to Matt. He's your guy. And if you guys need a car fixed, you got to hit up Will. He knows what he's doing. With that, guys, stay tuned for the next episode. Not too sure what it'll be about, but I definitely want to get these gentlemen back here. Like, follow, subscribe to the channel. You'll get the notifications for when stuff comes out because I am lazy and I don't put stuff out on time. With that, guys, protect your heart and have a good night.
See you guys. Thanks. Take care.
Take care.